Order number 9, the Health Amendment Bill, Senate Bills number 26 of 2020. Second reading.
Senator Kajwang, I'm told you had a balance of 18 minutes. Please proceed.
Madam Speaker, I don't intend to take 18 minutes because I know my colleagues are also keen on this particular subject. And so I want to urge that someone should bang something if I exceed 5 minutes. Madam Speaker, yesterday I started by stating that I support this amendment bill because we have all cried that the manner in which health workers are treated is not optimum. And unfortunately, unless we amend the Constitution, because the Constitution already devolved the health workers to the counties, it becomes very difficult to find a coordinated way of managing them. And that is why in the Health Act, the Health Human Resource Advisory Council was established. And it was meant to advise the stakeholders, the Cabinet Secretary and county government on issues to do with the welfare of health workers. Madam Speaker, allow me, even as we talk to this bill, to observe those health workers who lost their lives in the pandemic. If you look at it keenly, you might find that more health workers have died in this pandemic than Kenyan soldiers in Somalia. And yet, for the dead Kenyan soldiers in Somalia and other wars, the president will routinely come up with some memorial or come up with some monument to hail the fallen soldiers. This is time for us also to come up with memorials and monuments and symbolisms to hail and to honor our fallen health workers. Madam Speaker, I mentioned yesterday that our health workers are the new soldiers in the battle for humanity, because conventional warfare has become so automated that nowadays soldiers do not go out with grenades and bayonets and guns. They go out using drones and using technology. But the COVID pandemic has shown us that irrespective of how technologically and economically advanced you are, you still need human beings. We have seen countries with the ability to roll out hardware and to roll out software. We have seen countries convert entire stadia, convert New York, they convert the entire park into a COVID isolation center. But yes, you can have the structures, yes, you can have the ventilators, but unfortunately, you cannot mass produce health workers. And that is why, in this era, the post-COVID era, we must make sure that our policies and legislation is geared towards treating our health workers better. In my view, the ideal way of treating our health workers in this country would be one where there would be a shared service that is domiciled at the national level. Yes, this House serves to protect devolution. And one would assume that as a senator I would stand up and say that we are not moving health workers back to the center because that would be rolling back devolution. But it is only a fool who does not change their minds. If health workers have become the new soldiers in the battle for humanity, do we want to manage them in 47 different styles? Do we want to promote them? Do we want to motivate them in 47 different styles? If we want to do that for health workers, then why don't we do that for our soldiers? Our soldiers are being managed centrally because we know that they're a national asset. And yet health workers today are more meaningful and are more impactful than our soldiers who walk around with guns and grenades. Health workers, being at the center, would then be seconded to counties. And we'd have a body akin to TSC, and health workers have called it the Health Service Commission. County governors would make applications depending on capacity gaps, and this central body would deploy health workers to those counties. There are those who have argued that when health workers were centralized, places like Turkana never used to get anyone. But if teachers can reach those areas, if IBC officials today can reach every corner of this country, with goodwill, health workers can reach every corner of this country, even if they were centralized. Health workers would have uniform terms of service. Health workers would have the same policies when it comes to professional development, the same standards, training, and qualifications. And it would be possible for a health worker to do inter-county transfer. Madam Speaker, my county is unique because we have the burden of certain diseases. We have got the HIV/AIDS burden, we've got the malaria burden. And we learned, Madam Speaker, that where you have a malaria burden, you also have a sickle cell burden. Now, a doctor who has practiced in Homa Bay County, compared to a doctor who has practiced, for example, in Kiambu, where there's no malaria and there's no sickle cell and low HIV prevalence, over the years, they will not have the same kind of exposure. We must allow our health workers to move from malaria and sickle cell endemic areas to other areas that suffer different kind of diseases. That is when their experience and that's when their expertise will become rich. Madam Speaker, if we centralize the management of health workers, we then have a better approach towards developing specialized skills. Perhaps if you asked how many epidemiologists we have in this country in the face of COVID, you'll be told that the national government has been doing a professional development for epidemiologists, but every year it takes only 20 epidemiologists per year. How long will it take us to develop the critical mass of epidemiologists, oncologists, dermatologists, sickle cell experts? That can only be done if it is looked at centrally. Unfortunately, that is not the situation. In our constitution, we scattered our doctors in 47 different directions, and we gave them 47 different terms, 47 different bosses, and 47 different conditions. Madam Speaker, that has led to perennial strikes. But let's ask ourselves, I think health workers are the only workers in county government who still retain integrity. Because when they are not paid, they go on strike. Revenue collectors can go for 2 years without being paid and they will never go on strike. Chief officers and CECs can remain unpaid forever and they will never go on strike. That tells you there's a way they're stealing from the public. That tells you there's a way they've discovered some back door through which money goes into their pocket rather than to the county revenue funds. Madam Speaker, in my county, when there are delays in payment of salaries to county workers, everybody else is going about their own business like nothing has happened. The only place where service shuts down is in hospitals because our doctors, having taken the Hippocratic oath, they still have that sense of integrity, knowing that when a patient brings money to the hospital, it is not to go into their pocket. It is supposed to buy drugs for those institutions. Our doctors are suffering silently under mental health pressure. Madam Speaker, the COVID situation, doctors were seeing their fathers and mothers dying on floors of hospitals. Even if you are used to the cadaver and you've taken the Hippocratic oath, Madam Speaker, it would still affect you. And yet they had nobody to turn to because our counties do not have mental health experts. And that is why one of our greatest exports today, Madam Speaker, is doctors and nurses. And I think that the conversation that the ministry has brought, that we now need to look at our health workers as a commodity, just like tea, horticulture, fish, and those are the things we export. So that we have a structured way, if Kenya develops these health workers, trains these doctors to a level where they're proficient and they can work in the United Kingdom, why can't Kenya benefit from that? Just beside the remittances, can Kenya tax, can Kenya attach some value to the training that it has afforded? And now we are saying that if Kenya is going to send nurses to the United Kingdom will pay some agency fee, not to brokers, but to the national government. Because right now, Madam Speaker, these fees are being paid, but they're being paid to brokers. Let that money go to the national government. Madam Speaker, I want to conclude that the Health Human Resource Advisory Council that Senator Abdullahi Ali seeks to strengthen is really a toothless dog. He's just adding a back to it, but it does not have teeth. It is advisory. But I congratulate Senator Ali because he has decided instead of sitting and doing nothing, he's going to do something. Even if it's just to add a back to it. You know, by the time a dog barks, it takes you time for you to realize it doesn't have teeth. So I want to encourage Senator Ali, but we will not solve this problem until we have a health service commission. That is a time when we shall accord due recognition to our A students who go to do medicine only to be lauded over by MCAs, to be lauded over by politicians, and to be lauded over by people who did not qualify academically to be in those positions that they are in. Madam Speaker, I support.